Brett Velicovich, Fox News contributor and former U.S. Army Special Ops soldier, is on the ground in Kyiv right now. So you've stayed in the capital city. What is happening now, Brett?
Well, hi, Harris. And evidence of Russia's brutality is beginning to emerge on a larger scale, as we're seeing. So far, the bodies of at least 410 civilians were found in recaptured towns across the country, and it's only going to get worse. In the town of Bucha alone, hundreds of civilian bodies have been found in mass graves. The streets there are lined with men and women bound with their hands tied behind their backs. In Irpin, just outside of Kyiv, Russian forces killed a group of women and girls, then drove tanks over their bodies. I have countless videos and photos that show Russian war crimes, and I'll share those videos with anyone out there who will listen and expose the truth. We have evidence of ambulances being shot up, abductions, abuse, and even torture of civilians in multiple cities that has been documented at great risk to those involved. You've got Russian troops who have been abducting mayors, they've tortured journalists, and they continue to use these acts of desperation to demoralize the populace because tactically they're losing. There is just so much massive amounts of evidence of law warfare violations across the country, especially places like Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Kherson, east of Kyiv. Putin is a war criminal. I've been saying it for weeks now. This is why I've been going on your show and pleading with people for help, trying to get others to understand the truth about what's going on here. And this is just the beginning as journalists are start to be able to get into these areas where Russians are in retreat and see these war crimes and atrocities up close and personal. And I'm not trying to scare people, Harris. I just want the world to understand what's going on here. I'm an American. I love my country. I love my people. I die for my country. But when I see the Ukrainian people, I think of American citizens. When you look at some of these refugees in the eyes, you get a small glimpse into what they've gone through and the horrors they've faced. I worry that one day this could be us if Russia is not stopped. I mean, most Ukrainians, they're just like us. They're not used to war. They can't understand why this is happening to them, how their lives have been upended overnight. The people here can't grasp why bombs are indiscriminately dropping on their homes, churches, and schools, why some of them are having to step over the bodies of their friends as they escape the shelling, and why they're even being called refugees at this point. I mean, why do you think the Ukrainians are fighting so hard? It's because their family members are being killed.
You know, Brett, you and I have talked about this before, and I know that you have served in war zones. I grew up a military brat, so I understand the concept of people dying, being slaughtered all over the planet. And there are two things that make this different. First of all, it's how much of it we see, with so many journalists then doubling back to get it into Ukraine again, those Associated Press journalists, perhaps some who never left, who are risking their lives. We've seen what that can take. So we're seeing a lot of it. We're witnessing it together as the world. But the other thing has to do with the fact that when dictators usually roll, when we saw what we did in Syria, and those images were horrible in Iraq, what was different was there really was less of a threat that they wanted to take over every country that is aligned to the United States. In this sense, Putin has said it. He would love to be able to cross over. He hates NATO, wants to totally go into wherever he can, and he's gotten within 12 miles of Poland during this war already.
Harris, this is not a war against just Ukraine. This is a war against NATO, and people need to understand that. And Putin has said multiple times he will win this war at any cost, and we have to watch out for that. But there's one other thing, Harris, I'd really like to talk about that's important, and I hope you and your viewers can carry this message. Look, I've been moving around the country a lot in many different places, and I keep running across a lot of Americans, British, Canadians, and other foreign fighters who are coming into Ukraine to actually fight on the front lines alongside the Ukrainians. They're coming in to join this international territorial defense group consisting of foreign fighters. But after what I've been seeing on the ground, I would caution others out there about what I'm witnessing. Many of these guys, they're great Americans. They mean well, but at least half the Americans I meet coming into fight, I end up seeing leaving only a couple days later because they don't truly understand what they're getting into and how bad it is on the front line. They got in way over their head. This is real war. There are real consequences. This is not Call of Duty. It's not a game. Do not come out here if you don't know what you're doing and you don't understand the brutality of this combat environment. A lot of these guys, they're thinking they're going to cross the Ukrainian border. They're going to be handed a Javelin missile, night vision goggles, sniper rifles, a bottle of champagne by the Ukrainians. And that's not the case. The Ukrainians are doing everything they can, but they don't have enough weapons. They don't have enough weapons for their own people. Weapons from NATO countries are not getting here fast enough, and you're taking body armor from Ukrainians who need it the most. So I just hope you carry that message for me.
I appreciate that more than you know, and I'm just pushing a little bit right now because I know we can't keep you up forever. And I wish we could talk the whole hour because that is such important information. If you're coming, you've got to realize that they don't have enough to fight the war, and then you're in the same boat with Ukrainians. It sounds like a job for a lot of special ops guys like you. And God bless you for what you're doing. The crematorium, though, what we're learning is that we are now investigating to see if they are in fact burning evidence of war crimes now, burning bodies, because the world is watching this happen. And that would put this in a different category, I would imagine, in terms of what's going on the ground, Brett.
Right. Well, look, people don't realize that Putin is hiding a lot of what's going on here, and he does not want to show, especially his own citizens, the staggering losses. The Ukrainians are crushing them tactically, and so now they're bringing in these mobile crematoriums into the country so that they can burn the bodies of their own soldiers, so that people don't truly understand the numbers. Here's the other thing, Harris. You know, in places like Bucha, you'd be surprised. It's not just dead Russians in there. You've got Syrians, you've got Chechens, you've got Mongolians. They have been contracted and brought into this country by Russia to fight the Ukrainians so that when they have losses on that side, it also doesn't count against the Russian numbers. And so people are going to start discovering this, especially as more journalists get into these areas.
Wow. So their own Russian soldiers, they're burning to cover up evidence, and the mercenaries who come in to fight alongside them. One real quick point, the U.S. Department is looking at possibly chemical weapons. We've got a report on that coming up. I just want to see if you are hearing about a plant that was hit that had nitric acid in it, and what the word is on the ground.
We're hearing about it. I don't know if it's been 100% confirmed, but it goes back to my point that Putin will try and win this war at any cost. And so we have to be prepared. I really hope that the U.S. administration is preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
Wow. Brett Velicovich, thank you again for what you're doing, and appreciate you talking with us today, being in focus. Stay safe.
Thank you, Harris.